All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to spend some time with us towards the end of reInvent. Hopefully everyone's had a good show thus far. I'm Kevin Ma, I'm Director of Product Management for Amazon Connect. I've been doing this almost 7 years now, since we first launched Amazon Connect as a public service back in March of 2017. So certainly if people have questions about the product and why we built what we did and where we're going next, I'm more than happy to answer them. If there's things you like about Connect, hopefully I had some part of them. If there's things you don't like, they're probably my fault, and so we'll see how those go. With me, I have Stephanie Armour. She's from Hancock. She's going to be much more interesting than me. She's going to tell a story about how this stuff is actually used. But until then, I'm going to kind of walk you through the product, some of the things we're really proud of, and some of the things that we've launched recently. And so, well, that was largely my agenda, so I don't need to spend a ton of time on the agenda slide. So we've certainly seen a lot of trends in the contact centers over the past few years with the emergence of COVID and all the changes in the macroeconomic conditions. Contact centers are stressed. Like there's things that have gotten really, really hard. We had to close a lot of our physical contact centers. We had to have agents work from home. We had less people buying stuff from physical retail stores and more people buying stuff online, which has caused, interesting trends in contact volumes. You might not have a store where you can go talk to someone anymore, and that certainly puts stresses on your contact center and the number of contacts and calls and questions that you get. And today we're really going to be focused on analytics, and we're going to be talking through kind of how you measure contact center performance and how you use those measurements to improve it. Certainly the companies that do a really good job of this tend to see a lot of really impactful results. Some of the stuff we have on the screen, they've got these, improved self-service, and they get better containment rates. Certainly winds up saving money if they do a great job with giving their agents tools. They're going to have less agent turnover, which is incredibly expensive. You're having to train a new agent and certainly try to find one. And so hopefully most of the folks here understand how important the analytics really are to their contact center, because you get to do some of these things. You get to have better CSAT, something Amazon cares deeply about. Hopefully you guys have once had a good experience with Amazon customer service. And I think we care deeply about our customers and making sure that's an incredible experience. You have to reduce costs. That's a big driver. Half of the conversations I've had are like, hey, what is my ROI on this thing? How am I actually going to get the money back that I invest in adopting this new technology? Certainly agent performance is a big one. It's probably the biggest driver of having the strong CSAT, giving your agents the tools that they need to be successful and feel empowered to make great customer decisions. Reducing risk. This has come up a lot in the past 6 to 9 months with the advent of generative AI. And if you all have your Gen AI bingo card, I'm going to get into it a few times today. But with generative AI and we think about things like hallucination effects and like, am I really ready to trust this with full self-service? How can I provide the guardrails and the observability and measure what the generative AI is doing so that I can make sure it's doing it in a way that I'm comfortable with? And then of course the last big one is growing revenue. And what we're finding is if you can take some of the repeatable and easy stuff out of your agents' hands, you can have them work on harder and more interesting stuff. They can think about upselling, they can work on sales calls, they can do all these other high value things, and you start to transform your contact center into this cost center where you're writing this giant check all the time into an innovation center or potentially even a revenue generation center. And so for those that aren't super familiar with Amazon Connect, this is going to be my one kind of broad slide about what we are and what we do. I'm going to kind of take you across the rainbow, starting from the bottom left there. The thing that made us, I think, particularly special when we launched, almost 7 years ago, was you could go from nothing to having an enterprise-grade contact center in a few clicks. And I'm not, embellishing. I'm not making up stories here. Like if you all go to your AWS account right now, you can spin up Amazon Connect and you are hitting the races. You get a phone number, you can take calls, has an agent desktop. All that stuff is there. And what's cool about it is when you kind of get the technology out of the way, you empower people to make really good decisions and really amazing customer experiences because they can self-serve, and no longer are you frustrated trying to put together a VXML or write weird chunks of code. You can actually go drag a box and be like, actually, I think this would be a better customer experience, or this better aligns to the brand of my company. And so what was really empowering for customers when we started is we could let them kind of innovate and do it in a way that I don't think any other technology really could. And so what that lets you do as I traverse up my rainbow here is now you can start to deliver these incredible dynamic and personalized experiences. And I think we've all kind of had these terrible IVR experiences where I call in, press 1 for support and 2 for sales, and I get routed around the tree 17 times and I'm just angry and frustrated. You can start to build these really magical things. And so we had a customer build something that says, I'm flying home tomorrow, and let's say my flight gets canceled. Obviously, I'm gonna call in and be like, what the heck? What happens is they'll greet me and say, hey, I just saw your flight was canceled. Would you like me to rebook you for the next one? I haven't said a word at that point, but they just know from my phone number, from the technology that we've empowered them to look across these systems, that they can start building these really positive self-service experiences. Like up until that, I'd be jamming 0 for agent training, saying like, I need to talk to someone, you clearly don't understand me. But when you can kind of make these self-serve experiences personalized and actually good, like not only, yes, you save the money and you get the containment rate and it's a lot cheaper to handle, that's all great, but your customers are happier too. And that's kind of the magic balance that we want to achieve when we give you this technology. As we move along, certainly getting AI into the heart of every interaction is a big part of our business. When we launched having Lex and Poly and Transcribe and all these amazing AWS technologies there that provide machine learning has been great. But I think what's particularly special is we get to leverage the insights of Amazon.com and their contact center. And for a long time, I've gotten this sense sometimes that AI sometimes presents itself as like a solution without a problem. It's like, look at this amazing thing I can do with AI, but what's the actual business value I'm gonna get out of it? How is this gonna be practical? Is the cost of the LLMs, which can be super expensive, is it gonna deliver enough value that I can actually pay the cost? And so of course, the LLM costs will come down, the value will come up, and identifying that sweet spot is, I think, something we're really, really good at. And the reason why is because we've built a lot of this stuff for Amazon. Like everything that we do at Amazon has AI at the heart of it when we think about all of our warehouse and distribution and logistics, and certainly in the call center. I think we know exactly where that sweet spot is, and we love to pass those learnings on to our customers. So you'll see some of the cool Gen AI launches that we had. And then the last little salt in the rainbow is where I'm gonna focus most of my time today, is just this continuous improvement. We gotta measure everything that's going on. We gotta use those measurements to continually improve our contact center. And it builds what we call these kind of virtuous cycles, which we have this kind of circular object, because now I can continuously improve. And that's really easy because I can do it in a self-service way, and I've gotten the technology the way. And we get this circular innovation cycle, which is really exciting. And so, other things special about Amazon Connect, our ability to scale. Certainly during COVID with the public sector, we had government infrastructure that was just failing. People are trying to call in for their vaccine phase and what their unemployment benefits were gonna be, and it just couldn't handle it. They would call us on a Friday, they'd be up and running on a Monday. Like, we can scale instantly to millions of contacts and certainly tens of thousands of agents for some of our larger customers. And what's cool about it, and especially for customers with seasonal workloads, is you only pay for what you use. It's a usage-based product. And so I have a customer, Intuit. If you've ever done your tax filing around March and April, their contact volume goes through the roof. They're incredibly busy, and come at the beginning of May, it plummets. On any other system, they had to pay for agent licenses for the entire year. When they were on-prem, they had to scale up on-prem hardware for the entire year. It was just so incredibly expensive. For us, seasonal spikes are great. You literally pay for the minutes. So when you're busy, you pay for that. When you're not busy, you pay for that. Tons of great stuff in telephony. And the only other thing I want to call out here is just the team's execution on innovation. We've had 450 feature launches since 2017. We've had over 200 in just the past 2 years. We're seeing this continue to accelerate. There's going to be even more features coming out next year. We have no plans to slow that pace. So if it's a product that you checked out a few years ago and it didn't have everything you need, check it out again now. There is a lot there, and if it's a product you were already using a few years ago, take another look, because often you just get this stuff. When we ship features, they just show up and you opt into them. We don't make you pay for Amazon Connect V2 or sign some new license agreement with us. We're a distributed global application, and when we launch new features, they just become available. So for today's session, we are going to focus on analytics, insights, and optimization. I have another virtuous cycle because I love them, and I think this is the easiest way I can explain how this all ties together. But starting towards the top left, the forecasting and resource planning. So this is kind of colloquially termed as WFM amongst people in the industry, but this allows you to kind of understand what kind of contact volume you're going to get, and of course plan your resources against it. Agents are 75+% of the cost of a contact center, so getting the right level of agents to handle the call volume and do it in a satisfactory way and meet your SLAs, one of the most important things that our contact centers do. And so we get the staffing and the scheduling and all the tools where the agents need to coordinate which shifts they can take and how they're going to balance across their teams. And then as we kind of set that foundation, we get into this ability to monitor in real time what's going on. I can see if I'm actually hitting my SLA. Do I need to make adjustments? Is my contact center kind of running and operating in the way I hope it does? We progress on to conversational analytics. And this is where I start getting real deep into, what is actually going on in my contact center. I can, use AI to get the speech, turn it into text. I can then take that text and start getting these really interesting insights. I can know my call drivers. I can know what is making customers happy and what is making them sad. And I can use all of this to kind of power this continued improvement. And then the last one is the agent performance. And so this is really just measuring, are the agents doing the things that I need them to do? Sometimes this is as simple as reading out a disclaimer. At Amazon, we like to make sure we greet you and say thank you for being a Prime customer, assuming you are a Prime customer when you call in. And so that's something we want every agent to say the first time they talk. And so we want to make sure that they're kind of checking the boxes, adhering to our regulatory requirements and adhering to our brand things. And so all of this kind of lets you understand and shift back in. And so if the things are running the way I expect, if the agents are performing the way I expect, I can feed that into the forecasting model and keep adjusting and keep improving. And so I'm going to take you kind of on a tour of the product to go a little bit deeper in these things. First one, I'm super excited about this product. We launched forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling last year at re:Invent. And it's one of those things that way back when we launched Amazon Connect almost 7 years ago, pretty much every customer I talked to hated their contact center. Like the pain was real. And so it was such an opportunity for us to innovate and help them and do it in a very customer-obsessed way. I get the exact same vibe about this product. I don't hear a lot of customers tell me how much they love the tools that they use for forecasting and scheduling. And so it just felt like an incredible opportunity for us to help them with that problem. At AWS, certainly everything we do is working backwards from what our customers ask of us. And this is one of those things. The other thing that I think is pretty exciting about how we approached it is we make it as easy as like a click to turn on. And you're going to hear me say that a lot, and I really mean it when I say it. Like if you're using Amazon Connect, we already have your contact information, your agents, already have their logins in there. It should not be that hard to try to stitch together these weird integrations and make this stuff work. We just, hey, you want forecasting? Click here, we're going to start forecasting for you. And from there, you can take that forecast, you can start building your agent schedules, you can do all this cool stuff without having to do a ton of work. And so this is just some visuals on what's going on in that product. Certainly the bar chart shows us the forecast. It shows us how it compares against the actuals. We've got a schedule here showing the different agents across a different team. You can make all these different changes. Certainly, the funny thing is sometimes forecasting, the best competitor to a good forecasting tool is the random supervisor who's really good at Excel. There's a guy who's been doing it for 10 years and he knows, every time 3 days before Thanksgiving, we're going to get this weird blip and it's going to happen at between 1 and 2 p.m. we give you the tools to layer that kind of knowledge and thinking into this forecast, because like that's, I don't want to discount that incredible knowledge that some of these stakeholders have, and we try to make it super seamless so they can bring this stuff right into our tech. And a little bit more on this product, we can do these queue level deep dives. We can start saying, we predicted it was going to be this SLA. Actually, you're having this LA. Maybe you want to make a change. You're actually exceeding your SLA. Should we rebalance some of the agents into doing some upsells? Should we rebalance them into some other higher volume queue? And I think the other thing that I'm so excited about this product, like it kind of reminds me of the glory days of when I started Amazon Connect. Just for history, we became one of the fastest growing services ever in AWS history. AWS is already pretty fast growing business, and so for us to be the top tier of that, it was a special experience. I remember our senior leader liked to say that you guys are like the dog that caught the fire truck. And I feel the first 3-4 years of my career at AWS was just holding on for dear life. We had so many customers that wanted on board. They all needed features. They all needed things. We're a little bit more mature on the Amazon Connect side now because of how many features we've shipped. But this team has got this exact same vibe, all this forecasting, scheduling, and adherence stuff. They are shipping features at an incredible clip. I think they've shipped over 30 features in the past 6 months. They're working backwards from customers. They are solving those needs. And so I'm incredibly excited about what they're doing. If you haven't played with it yet, highly recommend it. Moving on to some of the new stuff. So Contact Lens is something that we launched 2019, I think 4 years ago around the reInvent time. And really what it did is we saw this pattern where customers were taking their call recordings, they're sending them over to transcribe so they could get the speech to text. Then they were taking that text and they were sending over to comprehend so they could get sentiment analysis and topic modeling and try to get what's going on. They're dragging all of that back and bringing it to Amazon Connect. And when we see patterns like that, like we shouldn't make customers have to jump through those hoops. And so we launched Contact Lens that does all of that and more in again, a click. It's literally a click to give it permissions and say, hey, start doing this on all of my contacts. And it's become this foundational service that powers so many bits of what we do at Amazon Connect. And so I'm going to focus on the new stuff because that's usually what people are here for. On Tuesday during Adam's keynote, we launched the Gen AI-powered summarizations. And to make it super simple, really it's just, we got all the text from the call, let's summarize it in a brief and really easy to understand way. Sounds simple, incredibly powerful. Like if you need to catch a supervisor up on what's going on and you can catch them up in 10 seconds, that is saving you an immense amount of time per contact, per interaction. And just getting that quick understanding, or if you're transferring a call from one agent to another, is super helpful. And of course, it is something that generative AI tends to be really, really good at. They can take a ton of context off of an hour-long call, boil it down into something succinct and understandable. Then we also launched real-time conversational analytics for chat. So all the chat conversations that you're having, we can give you all of these insights. All the capabilities on this screen now work in real time for chat. So focusing a little bit on the summaries, again, a click to turn on. They just start showing up. When you look at your contact, you're going to get the summary displayed right there. The next person that's trying to catch up, it just shows up in the app. You don't have to do any work other than that. The other cool thing it does, it highlights the key points from the conversation, and so it gives you these kind of chunks if you like to read the bullet points or the cliff notes. It keeps making it easier and easier to get you caught up. And then the other set of new stuff, and I'm just trying to go through the hit list because we launched so much stuff lately. We launched this conversational analytics dashboard, which you're seeing on this screen here. For a long time, the way we did analytics for our large enterprise customers, we gave them these kind of under the hood metrics. We'd give you APIs and streams, unlimited raw data. You can do whatever you want with it. We didn't give our customers a ton of these pre-built dashboards, and it's something our customers have been asking us for a long time. So this is the first big one for us. It's going to show you kind of what's going on in your contact center at a glance. You're going to get kind of the movers and shakers and the call drivers. You're going to see what's going on. Am I hitting my SLAs? What are the topics that are coming up? And again, like everything we do, you just get this. It just shows up. If you use Connect, you click the link and this dashboard is going to appear for you. And then the other one I quickly wanted to cover was the Zero ETL Analytics Data Lake. This, for me, is kind of one of the sleeper launches for Connect of the whole week. I talked about all those APIs and streams and things that we give you. This aggregates and does all the ETL work for you in one place. And we're seeing more and more how frustrating that is for customers, for them to try to make sense of it. And so you can take this thing, you can point to Tableau or a QuickSight or some other visualization tool. You can combine it with other data that you might have in your system. But it really makes setting up your analytics super easy. All right, and then back to contact lens for the call drivers. The one story I always like to cover here, and on the right side of the screen, this is another shot of the new dashboard that we launched. This is a long time. Prior to me joining Amazon, Jeff Bezos toured an Amazon call center, and he goes and does these like side-by-sides with the agents, which probably is an intimidating experience for them. But he sits there, call comes in, and the agent gets some metadata about what's going on, and the agent's like, I know exactly what this is. It's going to be this table. They're going to ask to return it because it's broken. Sure enough, picks it up. It's the table. It's broken. They issue the return. They refund their money. Everything's good to go. And Jeff is like, what the heck? How did he know? And he's like, well, I got 17 of those this week, and so like this just keeps coming up. And Jeff is like, why don't we do something about this? Like that's crazy that this keeps coming. And so he, of course, implemented this idea of the and on chord. Anyone at any level should be able to halt and be like, something's wrong here. We got to take that table out of the store. And so they gave agents the ability to actually go ahead and do that. So agents can just be like, nope, this table is no good for Amazon. Cut it. We don't want to sell any more of those because we don't want to get the next flood of returns here. And so this kind of tech, we can't all have Jeff Bezos come into our call centers, unfortunately, but we can have AI do this. And so with Contact Lens, we can get these trends, and you can suddenly see a spike in table returns week over week. A supervisor can quickly grab this chunk and be like, something's wrong here. And we at least give them the visibility and the understanding to go figure it out. And even more so, you can do this stuff in real time. And so we've given a rules engine here that essentially says, if I ever hear the phrase or I want to talk to your manager, or hey, I'm going to sue you, or something like that, you can actually set up these alerts that if I ever hear this is an immediate flag, and the supervisor gets a little pop-up in the UI that either they can come and join the call, they can take over the call, they can review it after the fact, you can send it for a post-process legal review. But again, all this stuff built right in, and it really allows you to better understand and, of course, improve the performance of your contact center. And now we're kind of getting into one of these contact deep dives. So this is a screenshot of the actual product. If you handle a contact on Connect, this is likely what you're going to see. And there's a number of cool things you can see here. The conversational analytics, the wavy looking line there is kind of showing you the sentiment trend over time. And what we like to see is that the end of the call is better than the bottom of the call. Generally, they were angry about something, had a bunch of conversations, like, okay, I'm happy now. The other stuff you get to see on here is we launched screen recording. So if you really need a deep dive, you can actually see what the agent saw on their screen. We launched transcripts, categories, and key highlights. And so this came out of the Contact Lens product I talked about, and then the performance evaluation tool. And so this is essentially a series of questions about how you might evaluate an agent's performance. And it gives managers tooling to go in there. They can watch the recording, they can listen to the call, they can see the summaries, and they can start kind of going through the scorecard and being like, yep, this agent crushed it. We talked about the summarizations. One of the things that I found with performance evaluations, we talked a little bit about agent retention earlier, is when the process isn't transparent, they get super frustrated. They'll be like, that manager has it in for me, he always gives me a bad score. And so that is one of the big drivers of an agent just bailing. It's like, I'm unhappy here, I don't want to work for this company anymore. So taking our performance evaluations to the next level, we actually added the ability to fully automate the completion of them. Like I said, we already have the transcript, we already have the topic model, we have the sentiment analysis, we have a ton of data already right there. Why should the manager have to go through and just listen to the recordings and check them off? We should be able to fill those out for them. And so that's what we did. And the great thing about that is now the emotions and the biases are largely out of the way. Now the AI absolutely can get it wrong sometimes too, and so that's why we kind of have these human layers that look at it. But it becomes a much more transparent conversation about the agent's performance, which is much more satisfying than you feeling like there's some emotional equation as part of it. And then the last one I wanted to cover quickly is just more on agent performance. The other thing that we added is this ability to kind of look at agent trends and cohorts of agents and identify what's going on across periods of time. So I could see this agent was doing great at this thing and they suddenly dipped off, or this agent is doing exceptionally well against this other group of agents. What are they doing right? How can we learn from it? And the cool thing about this is as you do this analysis, you can actually take it and you can route these things as tasks for training or performance improvements, and you can kind of automate this whole virtuous cycle of improving agent performance. So we've done a ton here. There's a lot more coming. I probably can't speak too much about the future roadmap, but I am gonna cede the rest of my time to Stephanie, who will talk about how she's really done this stuff.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, hello reInvent. I am Stephanie Armour. I am a senior IT business analyst with Manulife John Hancock. I work on our voice services team. So I have the pleasure of working with all of our North American contact centers to map out their customer journeys with them and help them roll out their telephony technology so that we can deliver the service we're looking for to our customers. So just to get started, who are we? So Manulife Financial Corporation is a leading international financial services group. We operate in Asia, Canada, and Europe as Manulife. And when we are here in the United States, we predominantly operate as John Hancock. So today, I have the pleasure of sharing the John Hancock US segment journey with you on Amazon. I'm going to dive right in and talk about the challenges that we are working on today. So the first one is workforce. As Kevin did mention, workforce can be a very manual process. We have our workforce managers taking a look at volumes, call volume spike week over week, day over day, and we need to make sure that we have the staff we need in place in order to handle our customer calls. The second thing would be quality assurance. We want to make sure that we offer a consistent experience on calls coming in. We want to deliver and delight our customers with the experience that we're looking for them to have. And the third one would be IVR containment. We have an omni-channel strategy, and the IVR plays a part of that. We want to make sure when our customers are calling in that we are able to help them and answer any questions that they may have. And if we can do that easily in the IVR, then it saves them potentially waiting on hold for one of our agents. So let's review our John Hancock journey. We began our partnership with Amazon back in 2018, 2019. This is when we did our first proof of technology, and we were very excited to not only use Amazon Connect and leave behind the legacy telephony platform, but we also immediately turned on Lex. And our customers gave us some very positive feedback when we transitioned from a more DTMF or touch tone key input and had our Lex-enabled IVRs. We did a rollout for one of our segments first. It was a more simple implementation, and then we followed quite quickly with our 4 other lines of business. In 2020, 2021, this is when we expanded that channel, and we used Lex again and started using the live chat feature on Amazon. At this time, we also got more interested in reporting, and we did take a look at the sentiment analysis as well as the transcripts. Just like many other contact centers, this is a big time saver because our agents are able to focus on customers instead of on taking notes about what happened on that specific call. For 2022, this is where we then went into routing requirements. We have a lot of contact centers and we have a lot of phone numbers, and we want to find a way to streamline and make sure when someone does call in to us that we are getting them to the best agent who's going to be able to service their call. At the same time, we did focus on expanding IVR capabilities, and we looked at digital payments for our life insurance IVR at this time. For 2023, our focus has been workforce management. We're very excited when Amazon launched this last year, and we have been using this tool. And then we were also looking at the quality. And from a quality perspective, again, very excited to make use of these forms and have everything together all in one place. So here are our results to date. When we take a look at where we were before we started our Amazon journey and where we are today, we have seen some very big improvements. So our Net Promoter Score across all of our lines of business has gone up by over 50%. We've also had the ability to reduce average call handle time for our agents so they can focus on servicing our customers better by 1 minute and 30 seconds. And lastly, with the improvements that we've done on our IVR system, we've seen our containment rates increase by 50%. So I'm now going to dive into how we plan to solve those 3 business problems that I brought up earlier. So the first one is with workforce. So we're very excited to partner with Amazon on this, make use of the tool. I'll start at the top and focus on the forecast. We all know that we have peak periods. We all know that there are days of the week that are busier than others, and we need to make sure that we have the staff in place. Kevin's slide showed some of those visuals that make it very easy for us to see and set our staffing needs. We have the ability in the tool to set up our staffing model. So we have different skills for our agents and different work periods, and we're able to set up the staff and align it to a schedule. We can play with that schedule in the system and see which one is going to best meet our needs. There are different features and settings that we can set in order to make sure it's what we're looking to have happen for that upcoming week. And then we want to monitor the performance to see how it's doing. I will say right now, this used to be a very manual process for us. However, the Amazon tool does have the machine learning going on just like it does on Connect. And so from our perspective, we are at a point right now where our forecasts are highly accurate on this tool. We are looking to fully automate this whole wheel and just have our workforce supervisors monitoring what's going on, as opposed to spending a lot of time tweaking. We're also very excited to have the alerting feature so that if something does happen in our contact center, we would be notified right away and we can have someone jump in and see how we want to solve for that. The next one is quality assurance. So quality, again, has traditionally been a very manual task. Someone has to listen to all of those calls, check off all those checkboxes, and they often don't have the ability to listen to every single call coming into your contact center. We do use contact lens, and with this tool and the machine learning, we now have coverage of QA on all of our calls. We have the call tagging. We know why our customers are calling in, and we are making use of the summary of conversations. The summary of conversations is a huge win because we can look very quickly and come up to speed and have that 360 degree of the customer to understand why they've called into our contact center. This is super helpful for a manager if they need to jump in, and it's also helpful on transfer calls because we're not reading through in a very long transcript. The next thing is the feedback. We love the ability, and we're working on quality forms so that we can evaluate agents based on the attributes that we set on our forms. We have 5 different lines of business, and we're looking to have these rolled out on all of them. This enables us to make sure that we have that consistent experience for our customers when they're calling in. The last feature that we're excited about from a quality perspective is the screen recording. This is something that we like to use so that we can understand how our employees are navigating through the system. This is a win for us in two ways. One, we are able to identify if there is someone who needs some additional coaching or support. But two, we can also take a look at and see who our top performers are and how they're able to navigate through the system. And that just helps us share that learnings with other people on the team. We also want to make sure people navigate through our systems the right way. And so with all of these tools in place, we feel like we have a good setup here. The last thing that we're focusing on is IVR containment. The IVR channel is important to us, and this is something we want to expand for customers. We do use Lex, and we find that the natural language recognition is very good on this tool. It is how we're doing our routing today, and we're looking to combine this with some of our knowledge management systems. This will enable customers to call in and answer simple questions from the IVR itself. We need to make sure that they're fully authenticated first, but then we would have the ability to share policy-specific questions with them right within the IVR, making it very easy for them to get questions answered. What we're looking into doing is processing status. When people call in and they have questions about premium payments or what policies they have, we want to be able to answer those questions for them quickly and efficiently. From a processing status perspective, we want to be able to let the customer know we have received that paperwork, or your check is getting ready to be mailed to you. This is when we anticipate it's going to be sent out. The last thing that we're looking to do is expand transactional capabilities within the IVR. So we already have our premium payment options available for our life insurance business, and we are looking to expand that to some of our other IVRs as well. That will make it easier for our customers to transact with us on their preferred channel. We have started this partnership with Amazon 5 years ago. I have shared with you the John Hancock journey that we had for US segment. And I did want to let you know there are other parts of Amazon or other parts of Manulife that are also working on their own journeys with the Amazon team. We're very excited every time Amazon launches a new feature for us, as we're always looking for ways to gain operational efficiencies on our side, as well as providing excellent service to our customer and delighting our employees. So we really do look forward to future enhancements from the Amazon team. Over to you, Kevin.
Cool, thank you. So I guess just last one on takeaways, we can jump right into questions. If these are some of the things that you're hoping to do with your contact center, what I recommend doing is go touch and play and build with the product. I'm a learn by doing kind of person, and honestly, if you have an AWS account, or even if you don't, go create one. You can spin up Amazon Connect in a few clicks. I did one, it took me like 5 minutes, way back when this first started, and it says if my wife calls, let it through. If anyone else calls, it just immediately hangs up on them. That's something you put together in no time. But get a good touch and feel on a lot of the stuff that's out there. If you're interested in the Gen AI powered summarizations, that product is in preview right now, so you have to get on the whitelist through that QR code if that's something you're interested in doing. But if not, just go play with the product. Tons of fun stuff to do there. And so this is normally the path that we see people take when they begin their migration to Amazon Connect. If you're already on Connect, go play with some of the new stuff. We launched a lot. One that I'm also pretty excited about is we launched a web calling for voice and video feature recently that allows you to kind of take a little snippet of code, put it in your website, and it creates this little widget that you can use it for chat, is what it used to just do, but now it also has the ability for VoIP and video. So in one click, you can start these non-telephony-based voice and video calls. The thing I love about it is it gets the authentication part out of the way, presuming you authenticate the customer on the website. Now they click voice call. You don't have to ask them the security questions and all that other stuff. You just get to pass it as metadata. So anyways, lots of great stuff. Please play with it. Go try the product. Hope you enjoy it. Now opening up for questions.